Robert, Chapter 2. Robert looked down, and at his feet, lying upon the frozen earth, was an infant boy. Without thinking, he dropped his sword and shield, took off his coat and wrapped the child in its fur. "Hello!" he yelled. "Is anybody there? Can anybody hear me?" He listened hard, hoping to hear someone calling back. He waited several moments, but all Robert could hear was the whistle of the wind and the moaning of the trees as they bent back and forth. He held the boy close to his chest, tucked his head down to block his face from the harsh wind and the beating of the heavy snow, and trekked back towards camp. As Robert reached his tent, the wind began to die, as did the heavy snow. The clouds began to shatter, and the wild blue yonder started to show its glorious face as it was freckled with stars as far as the eye could see. Robert placed the boy inside his tent and started up a small heater. He left the child to rest and warm up from the bitterness of the winter that had finally approached. While the infant slept, Robert got the fire roaring back to life and finally was ready to rest himself. After he had washed himself with a warm, wet towel, Robert walked over to the child. "You poor boy," he said to the babe. The newborn boy opened his eyes and stared at Robert. Robert looked back at him and smiled. Raven black, his eyes ran deep, his small, soft lips a pinch of pink, his wisps of hair blonde like the summer sun. "You're a handsome boy. You're going to be trouble when you're older." Robert laughed at his words as he wiped dirt off the infant's face. He unwrapped the child from his coat, whose body wore mud and soot like war paint, and began washing the child with a small rag. When the bairn was cleaned, he noticed that the boy had a scar on the left side of his chest. "Seems like you've come into this world fighting, little one. You can rest easy now. There's no need to fight any more," Robert told the child. He covered the babe in a cotton sweater and then wrapped him back up in the bison fur. Robert was now exhausted himself and lay down to fall asleep with the child at his side. He kissed the boy on his forehead. "Good night, little warrior. Sweet dreams." Robert's thought weighed on his wife, his daughter, and his unborn son. He wondered where this child's family was. Were they hurt or separated by the storm? Why would they not search night and day for him? His mind soon fell silent, and sleep finally took him. Robert woke to the sound of a baby's fuss. He rolled over to look at the small boy. "What's the matter, little one? Smells like you ruined my sweater," he said with a grin on his face. Robert grabbed the cloth he used the night before and stepped outside to warm some water. The morning sun glistened the snow that crunched below his feet. He poured some water into a small pan and heated it on the coals that remained of the fire. Robert looked around the camp as the embers heated the bath water. The lull of Wisgabitha gave him a sense of serenity as it trickled downstream. After such a stormy and wicked night, the river's water seemed to put the horses at ease as well. He gathered some grain and some water from the sleigh and made sure Amsterdam and Beauty were fed. He listened to hear if Iscariot was still asleep, then headed back to the tent with water and cloth in hand, and cleaned the mystery infant of the night. Today was supposed to be a full day of prayer, Robert thought to himself. He knelt down and began to pray. "My Creator, I ask your forgiveness, but I cannot pray the whole day. I must unite this boy with his family, or at least discover their fates. I pray that you find it in your heart to forgive me. In your name, Jerma." He dressed, tied a sling around his shoulder, and nestled the child inside. He noticed his brother was still not yet awake as he headed towards the horses. "Come on, boy," he spoke softly to Amsterdam. "Let's go." Robert hopped onto the horse and headed to where he found the child. The sunlight bent around the trees of the forest and reached the small clearing where Robert had discovered the boy the night before. The rays of light hit the face of the infant, and a small tear streaked down his soft, pale cheek. The babe wailed loudly. His cries echoed through the forest, bouncing from tree to tree. It seemed the forest had come to life as he cried. The wind began to blow to the east and rustled the loose snow that was now falling from the oaks and sycamore. As the forest sung its song and carried the baby's cry, Robert took the child in his arms to comfort him. He paused as the child's cry turned to coos and looked at the unusual scene that was before him. The soft light of the sun reflected off the ice that wrapped itself around the trees, and the snow looked like crushed diamonds shining upon the earth. The harshness of the storm had turned the forest into a palace of ice and snow, frozen in time. He then glanced down at his feet. Robert stood upon the spot where he found the baby in the rage of the night. It was a circle of ash and dust, about 12 feet in diameter. There were some embers still flickering from red to orange within the centre of the halo. He was dumbstruck. How can this be? He wondered. Unable to fully process the scene, Robert called out, "Hello?" There was no response. Again he shouted, "Hello?" But still no one answered. He journeyed throughout the forest, a mile in every direction, yet he found and heard no one. In despair, Robert headed back to camp, and as the horse slowly walked through the forest, he saw them, a man and a woman sitting under a giant, old, snow-covered oak tree. Relief struck Robert's face as he approached them. "They are to eat!" he shouted to them. He kicked the horse, and Amsterdam picked up the pace. "I have your boy!" he yelled joyfully. As the horse got closer to them, something seemed the matter. Did they not hear me? He wondered. And then he knew. The parents of the babe had fallen to the grip of death's hand.